Who am I here with today?
How's it going? My name is Richie Bando.
Alright, I'm Lil MG. Today, the main, topic that we want to tackle or really break down is first, how to have more presence and energy in your vocals and in the mix overall. And then after that's established, just certain maybe tips or tricks to enhance it afterwards in the master. We both go to Full Sail University, first of all. So we're both studying, what's your degree?
Music production.
Music production. I'm in recording arts, but we all study music in Orlando at Full Sail University. I got here in August of 2024.
Let's see, I have been recording for a very long time, but I'm mostly self-taught. So there's some things that I do that I don't realize that I did that they brought up, and then I'm like, oh, that's what that means,
Well, I don't know if you had anything.
Why don't you start with parallel compression?
Essentially, its purpose or what you want out of parallel compression is to achieve more depth, more presence from a vocal and more energy. Those type of words are interchanged for what parallel compression does and make the vocal more profound in the mix. The main way to do that is take some compression, put it on the return, and then set the threshold extremely low so you squash the vocals so it's super punchy. And then ultimately with the compression, you make it very punchy and make it over processed, because once you put that on a return track, you're going to blend the dry vocal with that extremely punchy, extremely overly energetic. When you blend the dry vocal with it, it's gonna add a good mix of the energy that you want while still preserving the dynamics and humanness of the dry vocal. So good. All right, so I'll ask you then. First, do you want to give any background to why are you here right now?
Yeah, so in 2019, I went to a school called Eastern Suffolk BOCES for audio production. And then from about 2020 to late 2021, I worked in a studio called Presidential Studios in Wyoming. Yeah, so I've been recording for a very long time. The school taught me all the basics. So after that, I kind of learned everything else on my own. So again, mostly self-taught.
You personally, what are some ways when you want to add more presence and energy in a vocal? What does Richie Bando do to enhance the vocal and give them more energy?
Yeah, the sauce. So what I like to do, I take 25 vocals and just slap them all together. So usually I'll have a plethora of takes, and then I take the best parts out of those takes, and then I'll have a bunch of vocals, and then I'll just layer them on. So there will be vocals, it will be 6 or 7 vocals, but it sounds like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 at most. So the rest of them are kind of there, but they're just they're barely audible.
When you're saying you layer vocals, are you just layering dry vocals? Are you layering the same type of processing for every vocal, or are the layers processed different?
The layers are processed different. So maybe sometimes I'll take a lot of the low end off some of the vocals so that they're really bright, and then use those bright vocals inside a reverb, and then just bring that all the way down, and it just gives it more of a presence. I don't really know how to describe it.
It preserves the presence and energy of the vocal that you want by getting rid of the mud when you get rid of the low end. Which also a big reason why I'm talking about this specific topic today is because this is something I have been, just an endeavor I've been looking more deep into, because for a consumer listening to a song, if the vocal isn't as in the front in the mix, default for a consumer to go, because they don't know a bunch of technical terms, is just turn it up. Sometimes it's not turning it up. Sometimes it's saturation. Did you even use parallel compression? Do you have layers? So for me, I want to, obviously with the mix, everything should be blended well, and I don't like having the go-to solution is just, the vocal to be more present, just turn it up. Because also in every mix there's a different sound you can try to achieve, and maybe as you learn and as you guys mix, you'll understand, okay, maybe I need more warmth, maybe I need to boost, do a high shelf gain around 7 to 14K for a little bit of presence and air, for a little professional touch. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. I would say for you, in every song, right, are you always putting a saturator directly onto the chain, or might you achieve saturation by other means like parallel compression or something else?
Nah, I just use a lot of compression.
Okay.
A lot of compression. But it depends on, obviously, the type of mood that I'm going for will determine what compressors I use.
And with type of compressors, you mean type of parameters on a compressor, or literally different types of compressors?
So I'd say a little bit of both. Like, I choose different types of compressors for different sounds, because even though they're plugins, each thing has its own sound. So say, even it comes down to like the microphone you use and the interface. Like if I have my Scarlett, if I use a Scarlett 2i2 and I use the Volt 2 or my Apollo, then even though it's literally just the interface, they all sound slightly different. But going back to the compressors, if I want to do something that's real gritty rap, then Logic has, in their compressors, there's a preset called Rap Vocal, and then I just mess with that. But it's a different type of compressors, because on the top it'll show like 5 or 6 of them, but I don't know the names of them off the top of my head.
Yeah, for me, because I mean, I'm obviously, you guys know, an artist. I mean, it's all over my page, but you know, I mix and I produce as well. For rap vocals, because that is what I do the most, as you know, I'm just a hip hop artist. My compression threshold, because rap, you want to kind of, you don't want to diminish the transients where it makes it sound bad, but just squash the transients so it's not as all over the place with the compression. I would say for a common rap compressor settings, to preserve energy, because that's what rap is, it's a high energy genre, I usually have my compression at -20 for the threshold, or lower depending on how punchy it's going to sound. And also that goes back into parallel compression and why that helps, because the very low threshold, it sounds extremely punchy, and that's why you blend it with the dry vocal to add more presence to the vocal. So the main things I would say because I also want to get into, okay, when the mix is said and done, we're gonna master it, what are we gonna do then to add presence or certain aspects that we want? But I would say you guys definitely need to use parallel compression to add an extra edge to your vocal, to still keep a high energy but natural sounding, to preserve the dry vocal. And then it's up to you, but if you still think it needs more power and presence behind it, add a saturator, mess with the parameters on that. The last thing I would say, so this is the last thing for more energy and presence in a vocal, is stereo enhancers. Literally like stereo enhancing plugins. I don't know, different DAWs have different kinds, but ones that you can literally grab from the library. It's like some sort of stereo enhancer, put it on the chain and mess with how wide it's going to be or how much depth it's going to have. They each ascribe different names and have different parameters, but what this is going to do is just going to widen the stereo image of the vocal. And essentially what that is a song is made up of 2 aspects: the mid information and the side information, or stereo information. If you don't think a song is, or you don't think a vocal is very present, it's probably because it's not. It's probably too mid-focused. So we listen to music like this, headphones on, whatever, we got 2 ears. Okay, if it doesn't sound very present, it's probably because it's not. You put it on a stereo enhancer, you literally widen the vocal to make it cover more of the beat and sound more present, because that's literally what it's doing. So yeah, that's the 3 things I would say for presence and energy in a vocal. Main thing with energy, parallel compression, more compression for more energy, saturator to add more depth and warmth, and then a stereo enhancer to widen the vocal and make it sound more present. Okay, now your mix is done, your vocals are very present, you're sitting good in the mix. For those who, especially today, there's plenty of artists who release music independently and, you know, try to master on their own. We all probably do or try to master on our own. If we make songs, we want to put our music out, so we got to master it. So this is a new revelation for me. I know this might make me sound like a beginner, but okay, actually no, this is not beginner stuff. But I'll say this, right? My personal, and I'm gonna ask yours too, my personal #1 problem with mastering is muddiness, but unidentifiable muddiness. Like, I understand it's always in the low end for me, but I can't, for some reason, even if I try to take away these frequencies, it's taking away the sauce from the low end and the bass that I want. So it makes mastering very difficult. Before I get into the solution, I'm just also gonna ask you, when mastering a song, what's kind of the main thing you notice either needs improvement or sticks out to you, like, man, I wish this was better?
So when I'm mastering a song, I start to think about, like, what type of song is this and what do I want to be heard? So usually it's the vocals, depending on, you know, the genre, but for rap, it's usually the vocals and then some type of kick or 808. So those are the 2 most important things for me. So everything else, it can kind of, I don't want to say blend it out, because every instrument is important, but they're not as important as those 2 things. So as long as those are sticking out, then that's when I start to kind of mess with everything else. So usually I'm trying to boost like the lows and the mids, the high mids. That's kind of where I start, and then I just mess with it from there.
For me, my initial mindset with mastering is obviously everybody knows you need a good mix, a solid, really good mix before you're gonna master. That always comes first. I always thought, okay, if I EQ my mix to perfection, like true perfection, then when I get into mastering, I don't need to EQ because my mix is already EQ'd perfectly. I'm just here to make my overall mix louder and just enhance any frequencies I might want to if I need to. However, the main problem with me with mastering is muddiness and a ton of clashing in the low end. But the interesting thing is when I'm mixing, I don't notice that until I'm trying to master and I bounce it. It sounds super muddy. My solution to this is back to, okay, first we need to break down what is a song. It's mid information or mono, side information or stereo. Stereo information we only really perceive in the high end, and you don't need a ton of stereo information in the low end. This is where I noticed a lot of my clashing in the low frequencies and muddiness would arise when I'm trying to master a song, is because this is where mid side EQ comes into play. I would have a ton of stereo information or just stereo information at all that I didn't need in the low end, like 100 hertz and down, and I didn't really understand, like for the low end, for the 808s, the kick, all that, I don't need a bunch of stereo information there. And the stereo information with the mid information, it's just clashing. It sounds disgusting. So what you can do, basic equalizers likely don't have this, but plenty equalizers do, and it's very textbook for mastering, is mid-side EQ. Wherever in your equalizer, go to whatever toolbar you have. You can choose either just EQ, the mid information, or choose the EQ just the side information. If you press mid information, you just hear the mid information and vice versa. What you want to do to prevent muddiness, and this is going to be your guys' go-to from now on to how you're going to attack and reduce or essentially just get rid of all that muddiness you don't want when mastering, is go to the side information of your overall track. Identify where there are unnecessary spikes of very low end information in the master and put on a high pass filter. Probably a 24 dB works really well. It still sounds smooth while definitely just getting rid of all the muddiness in your master, and then pull it forward or pull it to the right until you get rid of that extra muddiness in the low end. And you're going to do this in the stereo aspect of the EQ because you don't need all that stereo information in the low end. That's just going to be your go-to to prevent muddiness. And then after that, whether it's vocals you want to enhance, bring up the frequencies maybe where the vocals are, or if you just want certain elements of the song, you want more high end, go to higher frequencies. But at that point, it's really up to you and, like you said, what you want out of a song. Muddiness, I don't know anybody that really wants muddiness. So that's just, I'm going to tell you guys, in a sense, kind of the rules of music is get rid of that muddiness when you're going to master after your vocals are mixed well and everything in your song. So that's what I'll say. So I don't know if you have more to add about an EQ. I know you already kind of talked about it, listen to what I want to enhance essentially.
Yeah, I think you hit everything pretty well. The only thing that I would really have to add is that there's this one plugin called the God Particle. So I just started using it like yesterday. So I can't give a whole spiel about how good it is because I'm still trying to understand everything that it does.
Hey, sponsor us.
Yeah, please. I'm not sponsoring, so do with this information as you will. But the God Particle's super good. I think it's going to be almost a critical piece in my mixing process from now on. Still figuring out.
For mastering?
Yes.
And why is that?
So,
what do you want it to do?
It makes it sound great. How do I explain this? You know what the Sound Goodizer is?
Yeah.
It's like a pro version of that.
Oh, okay.
So it just gives it the sauce. I think it's boosting a lot of the highs.
All the engineers out there, you guys know what that is.
Yeah.
The sauce, everybody. We can just hear it right now.
I think it's boosting a lot of the highs and the mids. And I think it compresses it too, but I don't know. Again, I just started messing with it yesterday, so I didn't get to mess with all the knobs and stuff yet.
Okay.
But it sounds great so far.
The last thing I say for mastering after, all right, we got energy and presence in our vocals, we're EQing. Oh, also EQ, like bring EQ, cut, holy smokes, we're trying to say cut. Also frequencies that after listening to the mix, because obviously up to the engineer, that you don't want in the song, or if there's still harsh frequencies that you are picking up after the song is fully mixed. They're not supposed to be drastic cuts, but just cuts to tame the mix and overall just achieve the sonic sound you're going for. And then after that, essentially now we just want to bring up the level of the overall song. You can achieve this next by compression, throw in a compressor, mess with the parameters while still preserving enough of the transients of the track, but then using makeup gain to bring the volume back up. And there's also, I use Ableton. There's also like stock mastering plugins you can literally grab, throw on the master. And it's essentially, most mastering plugins, like stock mastering plugins, just encompass some equalization features, a limiter, and they have some compression too. Those I would recommend for someone, if you've never mastered a song, throw one of those on your master just to see what it does and also see what you are trying to achieve when mastering. And then the last thing I would say is if you brought the volume up and the EQ is sounding how you want it to, the last thing I'll say is sometimes I struggle with EQ is good, volume is good. For some reason the final master still doesn't sound very present. Overall, it's one thing that I would say also for presence / energy, if you want and you still feel like you need more energy in your master, throw on a saturator just to add some more depth and overall warm up your master. But then the last thing, just for more presence, is enhancing the stereo image. Whether that's literally throwing on stereo effect or like processor just to enhance the stereo image, or now what I have been diving deeper into, which you guys all need to do, is back to the mid-side EQ thing. Go to choose just the side information of your equalizer, and if certain frequencies you want to sound more stereo, and just the stereo information, bring up those frequencies in the stereo information. And the reason you do this is if you just do it in a normal equalizer, you might essentially just freak out your mix with throwing up way too many frequencies. There's just too much going on. But by just doing this, by just EQing the side information, you're enhancing those frequencies of that information you want to bring up without further muddying your mix. So
if you hear something, fix it immediately. And it sounds kind of dumb, but like sometimes, I hear something, I'll be like, I just make like a mental note of it and I go back. But honestly, like if there's something that sticks out, no matter if it's in the mix or the master, you should just get rid of it immediately, or fix it to do whatever you want immediately, and then start to move on. A lot of people don't really mix with the whole song in mind. So when you solo something out and then you listen to it, it's not gonna sound the same with all the instruments playing. I kind of just like to do everything with everything playing at the same time.
Yeah.
So that way, as I'm moving through, like I already know how it's gonna sound.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, and there's always like the solo on solo, listen to it by itself, listen to it with the mix, just going back and forth.
Right.
Because sometimes like when the whole mix is playing, you can't hear a certain instrument of the song. Maybe you need to solo it just to be like, okay, this is all the frequencies this instrument or sound is emitting, to better understand where they are and tackle it, and play it in the whole mix to see how it sounds. All right, so that's gonna be the main topics and aspects of mixing and mastering that we're gonna cover today.
You find me at Richie Bando on literally everything. RICHIEBANDO. Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat. Hit me up if you want to learn anything.
Get that, bro, if you need engineering. All right, thanks for tuning in today. If you guys like this video or you found it helpful, please comment, subscribe if my content has been helpful thus far, or if you found this video helpful. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna get better at these outros, but all right, goodbye.